I am the Ascended Master, Mother Mary, and it is my great joy to open this gathering for the purpose of teaching you about what we have called your divine plan. What's in a name, as the Bard said? Well, whenever we give a concept, we of course face the reality that we have to use words in order to communicate these ideas that are truly beyond words. And we also face the reality that not very many people think about is that words are interpreted differently by different people depending on their background, their culture, their individual psychology. So when we give a name such as a divine plan, well, it cannot necessarily reach everybody because some people will have a prejudice against the idea and they will not be open to even hearing more about the concept because they have a reaction to the word divine or they have a reaction to the word plan, and it causes their minds to go into this state that is so common on earth where you reject without truly considering with an open mind and heart what is hiding behind the words, what is being said that is beyond the words. And so I wish to give you a little bit of a view of how it is for us as Ascended Masters. Now, I want you to imagine that you, with your present level of consciousness, were transported to wherever you see us residing, whether it be in a higher energetic realm or however you can conceive of it. So you are transported to our level where we reside, and you are now with us looking down at the earth. And you see what you may never have considered, at least what most people have never considered. You see how many different types and groups of people there are on the earth. And you now see, which you cannot see with your physical sight, but you can see this from our level, how all of these groups of people are in a certain state of consciousness. And you see what you already know, that each person has an individual psychology, an individual state of consciousness made up by their four lower bodies. And so you see how people have a physical level of the mind, an emotional level of the mind, a mental level, and an identity level. And now you see that each human being, of course, has what we have called the conscious mind. And you see that each human being has the conscious mind focused in one of its four lower bodies. For some people, it's the physical body they are mostly focused on. Other people pay more attention to their emotions and live their entire lives in their emotions. Others are focused on the mental realm and are always thinking and analyzing. And a few are more focused in their identity bodies or their identity minds. And so you see that when we give a teaching, one of the goals of that teaching is to reach the person's conscious mind and cause the person to have a conscious insight, a conscious revelation, and a high experience, if you will, that causes them to shift their consciousness so that they see something they didn't see before, and therefore they have a broader, more mature view of life, of their personal situation, and therefore they can shift into doing things they couldn't do before, overcoming certain emotional patterns, overcoming certain mental patterns, or even shifting their identity to a higher level. So in order to do this, we need to give a teaching that reaches people's conscious minds. We need to somehow, from our level, penetrate through to people's conscious minds. Now you also see that in order for us to reach a specific person's conscious mind, the ideas and concepts we give has to pass through those are the four lower bodies that are above where the person's conscious mind is focused. So if a person is focused in the emotional level, our ideas have to penetrate the identity and mental minds of that person before they can reach the conscious mind. It may even have to penetrate some aspect of the emotional mind. And so now you see that each person has a certain filter, certain barriers, certain beliefs, certain attitudes, certain emotions that might actually block the ideas we are releasing from reaching the person's conscious mind. Now mind you, this is not simply a matter of the person hearing or finding or reading the ideas. It is entirely possible that a person can read a book that contains our ideas, but as the person is reading the words, the bodies, the higher levels of the mind of that person are blocking or filtering out the concepts from really reaching the person's conscious mind, connecting, having an impact. In other words, the person is reading the words, but it's not truly absorbing them, connecting to them, grasping them. I'm deliberately not saying understanding, because it isn't just a matter of understanding. It is a matter of truly connecting to the idea so that it shifts your consciousness. Too many people focus on understanding, and that is because many of the people who have found the spiritual path are focused in the mental mind. They are focused on understanding an idea. But there are many, many examples of people who have a great intellectual understanding of spiritual concepts, but it doesn't shift their consciousness. And that's because they have not truly connected. They have not actually had an intuitive experience of the idea. It is blocked by their mental mind's desire to understand the idea, to categorize and label it, so that the mental mind can put it in a nice little file folder in the database where it feels like it has the idea under control. But my beloved, it is not a matter of having an idea under control, because if your ego and your mental mind feels that it has a spiritual idea under control, how is that idea going to shift your consciousness? It will just be filed away as something you know and understand at an intellectual level, and it does not shift your consciousness. And so, if you could see what I have now told you, you would see that there are many, many people on earth that are completely unreachable for the ideas we can bring forth from our level. You will also see that there are many, many people who are actually open to a spiritual teaching, who are maybe even open to an esoteric, metaphysical, new age, or even an ascended master teaching, that still have so many prejudices, filters, preconceived opinions, ideas they are not willing to question, that it is very difficult for us to come up with an idea, to formulate an idea in words that can actually reach these people's conscious minds. And if you were to see this with your present level of consciousness, it is very likely that you would be so shocked that you would feel almost hopeless and discouraged, because what could you actually say that can reach people? Some of you even have the experience of knowing people that you have attempted to tell about what you believe, and you also run into the limitations of the words, that whatever you say does not connect to the person's conscious mind, does not really shift them. And if you could see the situation that we face, you would, with your present level of consciousness, most likely feel discouraged. Now, I'm of course not giving you this teaching in order to make you feel discouraged, because we do not have your present level of consciousness, we have ascended. And there are two aspects of that I wish to bring to your attention. The first one is that we have, of course, truly integrated and experienced the reality of free will. And therefore, we have no desire to change other people against their free will. We have actually accepted, as we have even said in some of our latest books, that when you consider that the earth is an educational institution that is meant to give certain people the experiences they desire, then we have no frustration about working with earth. Now, you may go back, if you are familiar with previous Ascended Master dispensations, and you may be able to actually find dictations where there, even in the wording or in the vibration of the wording, could be detected a certain sense of frustration or impatience on behalf of the Ascended Masters. You may even go back and find some of the early dictations given in this dispensation where you can find that sense. But I wish to make you aware here that if you detect such a vibration in an Ascended Master dictation, then that dictation, that frustration, that vibration came from the three higher bodies of the messenger. There is no other explanation when we were talking about a sponsored messenger, because we, of course, do not have a frustration. If we had any kind of frustration about working with earth, we would have long ago experienced what you on earth call burnout. And I can assure you that that phenomenon does not exist in the Ascended realm. An Ascended Master does not go down with stress, does not have a nervous breakdown. We have ascended because we have overcome the desire to change people against their free will. It is true, of course, that there are many phenomena on earth that we would like to see changed because they obviously cause people to suffer. But you should not reason based on that and say that we are impatient or frustrated because these conditions have not been changed. And so you realize that from our perspective, we do not have any kind of frustration. And therefore, we are, of course, not feeling discouraged. We are working with people, and we are in acceptance of the fact that every human being has free will, and therefore has the right to be in their present state of consciousness. So we can say that your follower bodies form what we might call, we have called it a self, but we have said there are many different selves, there are many different internal spirits. There's the ego, there's the conscious mind. But so let us just call it a personality, just to again use a word that you are somewhat familiar with. So the totality of your follower bodies form this personality, and inside of that personality is the conscious you at a certain level of consciousness, and it has a greater or smaller identification with the follower bodies, the contents of the follower bodies, the cells that are in those follower bodies. And so we accept that this is how free will is outplaying itself. We accept that the earth is a low consciousness, high density planet, and we fully accept that our role is to work with people at whatever level their consciousness they are at, and seek to help them come up higher. And based on this, the idea I want to convey to you is what you have already touched upon in your previous very fruitful discussion, namely that it is not the goal of the Ascended Masters to bring forth one highest, absolute, universal truth and get all people on earth to accept that truth. It is not our goal to do this. I know this will contradict what some of you believe. I know this will contradict what many people who have studied previous Ascended Master dispensations believe. And I'm sure that some people will go out and find quotes from previous Ascended Master dispensations or dictations and say this contradicts what Mother Mary is saying through Kim Michaels. And this is perfectly all right. But the reality that we are giving you who are ready to step up to a higher level is that we are not sitting up here with one ready-made, predefined, universal, absolute truth that we are seeking to bring into the physical realm and get all people to accept. And the reason for this is that we recognize from our level very clearly that it would be impossible to bring forth one teaching and get all people to accept it. There are simply too many different levels of consciousness between the lowest and 144th level. There are too many different groups of people from different backgrounds, different planets, whether they are from the earth, whether they are fallen beings, whether they have come from a myriad of different planets, that you cannot bring forth one teaching that all can accept. This is partly due to the fact that they are from many different backgrounds and have many different levels of consciousness. It is also to a very great extent a product of the fact that the Earth is a low consciousness, high density planet, and therefore the words that is the primary means of communication on Earth, which it wouldn't be if the Earth was of a lesser density, are so limited that it is impossible to express a truly universal, absolute, highest truth with the words that are available today. And so, our role, our goal is clear. We seek to work with any person or any group of people that are open to anything we can bring forth, in order to reach through all the barriers, all the filters of a specific group of people. We have to look at what is their background, not only their culture and history on this planet, but even their cosmic background. Where do they come from? What prejudices do they have in their minds? What ideas do they have in their minds that they are not willing to question? You recognize, my beloved, that almost all human beings have a certain aspect of their mind that is open to new ideas.